Hi, everyone. Welcome to Athena's Wellness Wisdom. This is a podcast that I'm creating, and this so happens to be my very first episode. I want to create this podcast. I have my friend Abbey Normal, sorry,
It's
here
okay.
with
Here I
me.
am. I'm happy.
Abby. So the whole point of this podcast is to kind of talk about different types of wellness out there. And I want to speak to my own healing journey. And the first guests that I'm bringing on here, the first few guests, are people that have had like a major impact on my own journey. And as with the majority of my life, these people are very different. And I just really love to showcase the fact that, there's so many different ways to kind of access your own journey. There's different things that are going to work for different people and different ways to pique your interest. So, I'll do. Here's Abby Normal. Are you able to kind of explain a little bit about yourself and maybe how we met and when I reached out to you?
Absolutely. So I tell the world that I'm professional at energy healing and psychic wisdom. It's a question that I have a hard time answering because it's not really the words that explain what I do. It's really getting into the nooks and crannies about how do you even do these things and what is it that you see? What is it that you offer with your skill set? So for me, I've been on a journey. You could say, what was the inspiration for me to even figure out I could do such things? One of my challenges, you could say, I felt quite invisible, actually. I felt quite alone. I felt kind of withdrawn from the world. I spent a lot of time with myself, even at younger years. And so I developed an awareness that there was more here than just the physical world. So obviously, I would have invisible friends. I was introduced to Christianity, so I was raised Catholic, and I was introduced to God and Jesus and the stories of the Bible. And I was really open-minded to that. So praying to God was something I was introduced to. So God was one of my invisible friends. And I had a great relationship with God. And that really started, I would say around 12, 13, 14. So when you're in your adolescence, you're pretty, you're pretty sensitive to a lot of things. And I was very sensitive to feeling alone. And I struggled with depression for a lot of years of my life. But I always had that connection with another realm of awareness, the realm of love, the realm of God, the love realm of everything that was out there. Because even in my heart, I just knew even the monsters were somehow not scary. Like there wasn't really anything to be scared of. And I have been challenged in my life to explore what is really terrifying. And I've been able to conquer every single one of these tests with a simple method of just remembering that is the terror that's coming towards me in need of something, of my assistance. And because maybe that needs to be loved too. Like maybe all things, all monsters really just need to be loved just the way I've needed to be loved in my own life. And so, in this journey of my story, and how I kind of got exposed to this, and I've been kind of studying this without even conscious awareness for a lot of it, 'cause I didn't even consider myself psychic for a lot of years. I just didn't. I always felt a connection with spirituality beyond just religion. I just felt like there was more than just how religion creates, a defining point between, okay, you die and now you go to heaven, or you die and now you face the judgment and now it's eternity in hell. And that was very confusing to me. So what do I do for a living? Well, I use the same technique I've used my entire life, which is to sit in the silence of the the whole universe, you can call it. And when I sit in silence, I close my eyes, I become connected to everything. And you could hear people talk about the quantum field, and the quantum field is actually quite easy to access as long as you just let go of everything that gives you a connection with your human self. And so when I sit at 0 point or the quantum field, it's all the same thing. It's just a place where there's no ripples in the pond. You're not exhaling sound, you're not really inhaling sound, you're just sitting in stillness. And so I could sit in stillness with any goals that anyone brings to me. And then in that space, I reveal those goals to the universe and I let the universe reveal images to me. And so everything that the universe is made out of is basically just like snowflakes. They're all unique and beautiful patterns. And those unique and beautiful patterns could take me to actual places like dark cave-like places or under the ocean or other worlds or completely like no real detail at all. And it takes me into places of deep sorrow, places of fear, places of anger, places of inner child, the broken inner child or abuse, places of self-hatred, places of all kinds of stuff. Because you're made out of sound, you're made out of snowflakes, you're made out of all of this incredible information. And so you and I are connected, right? We're all connected. What connects us? The same material that gets me to the quantum field or helps me talk to God. It's all prayer or it's all energy. We're all linked, right? And so when I'm in this altered state, I become a part of that information space. And not everybody knows how to do it. So I'm here to do this for you. You ask me to heal something or to look into why is this happening in my life. You ask me, I get all kinds of session goals, like practical stuff to really out there stuff. I'm not here to be judgmental. I'm here to receive you 100%. You know, that's like the Jesus nature is to receive people 100% and to be a good listener. And when I receive you 100%, that helps me to get the coordinates for what's going on in your like big snowflakes field, like what's going on in your whole totality. And then I just allow the information to reveal itself to me. I navigate it, I talk about it, and then now you have some psychic wisdom and some energy healing. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I think it was around 2018. I had a pretty like challenge times. So and same as you, like I felt kind of disconnected. I felt like a lot of loneliness, even being around people. And I was just like kind of, but the one thing I know that I always had was this curiosity. And like it's interesting, I know through watching your videos and stuff that you talk about God and you talk about angels and everything. And it's like, but at the same time, you said that religion, like, some of it doesn't make sense because there's so many different religions out there. And that was one thing that was like big on my mind. Like, how can different people like so strongly believe in different things? Like, what's the common thread? And the common thread is that we're all connected, everybody. So, I mean, different people can use different words for their religions, but I mean, the basic principle is the same. And it's kind of having that thing that you believe in and that you connect to, and having, a friend there, someone that, yeah, you can connect with. And it's all on this energy field. So for me, it was actually animal communication that sparked my first interest. And that's what kind of led me into the realm of spirituality and learning about it, and then really resonating with it and connecting with this whole one consciousness, this whole fact that we're all connected. And one thing that you said too, it's like, love, just the word love is just so important. And that's how we can all be connected. And that's something that when we're born, like that's what we strive for, that's what we need, that's our sense of survival. And so somewhere on YouTube, I found you in some of your videos. You've had a huge YouTube presence, and you do these channelings, and you speak, um, about all sorts of different things. Some people would say like there's a lot of like woo woo in there, so I know that it's not for everyone, but that's what sparked my interest because and that curiosity, and it's just like so amazing. So for me, I was like, well, I gotta like contact this girl and see if I can like what is this soul journey? Like I need to see, like what she gets from me. And because at that point too, there's that little bit of I'm a little bit skeptical about about all of it, right? So I reached out to you in 2019, and that's when you did a soul journey for me. So you just it was like a pre-recorded, and then you sent it to me, and then I know when I reached out to you now, it's like I probably listened to that same recording about 4 or 5 times. It was about 6 years, almost 7 years ago now. So about 4 or 5 times over those 7 years. And like every time it's the same message, but it's like, oh, it's like now that I've peeled back my own layers and like gotten to my own core, like it hits me in a different way and like I can resonate with different parts of it. And the things that really stood out for me in that, and you said it before too, when you're doing these journeys, there's no judgment, like for healing, that's so important. Is just, someone having this non-judgment of what you're coming to them with. So that was huge. And in the recording, you told me a lot about because then I was like wondering, do I want to like do animal communication myself? I kind of dabbled in it a bit, and it was like shocked at what came through for me and the stuff that I was getting. So I was like, oh, let's see, like, is this what I want to do? And when you journeyed in, it was like, yeah, you're there's different paths and everything, but it's like, you could tell, you could sense that I was not confident. And so doing like the different types of healing that I've done with myself and taking a deep dive, like one of my core beliefs is that I do not trust myself and that, I don't trust myself and I don't trust the decisions that I make. And that's an awareness that I gained, and it's not something that I need to change or fix. It's just having awareness is what kind of gives way to healing. So with that awareness, I can kind of, when I'm met with the situation of like, well, do I want to start a podcast? Do I think I can do it? It's like, yeah, just trust. So that's like a huge one for me, trust and confidence. And then in order to do something like this, it's like I need to know the person I'm doing it with. Like I can trust them to kind of help me out, and that non-judgment, is huge for me, and being able to do this. So those are the things that stood out awesomely for me. So doing that soul journey, even at that time, it's like, okay, like, and then there's some stuff about my mom. Like for anyone who doesn't know, my mom passed away when I was 14. So of course, like in the sense of talking about trauma, that is a traumatic experience. But before that, there was a lot also, and those traumas were just about a loss of connection, basically, and just that attachment, basically. But yeah, so talking to you really kind of started off, um, and in that, I guess another thing, like when I mentioned to you about now, it's like we kind of talked a little bit about symbolism, and then so the way I see a lot of what you're talking about, like, and the quantum field and snowflakes even, it's like it's different ways of like symbolism, and it's like everybody's going to have a different way that they connect with things. But yeah, it's just like it's following and trusting yourself when different things come up. So yeah, for me, it's like animal communication was a way, like it symbolizes just kind of the quantum field, and it symbolizes that we can connect with people on an energetic level, and connect with the universe and everything on an energetic level. So I'm just kind of like wondering if you could talk to that a little bit, and maybe like how symbolism in your line of work can relate to your inner workings, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah, that word symbolism. That's a very interesting word, and I'd mentioned that to you in the email too, and because that's a lot of how I navigate information is going to present itself to me in the strangest of ways. And what it looks like to me, like a picture and holds 1,000 words, and what that looks like to me and what that means to me, it's really based on the raw energetic material. Like I don't get to decide that it means this because, well, just, it looks ugly and therefore it is ugly. There's a lot of broken, disturbing, ugly stuff that actually is just facing a hard time. And so it looks gross, but it really just needs nourishment and love. It's like your dirty dishes kind of look gross, but all they need is a little bit of love, right? And a little bit, a little spit shine on there, put them in the dishwasher, and yay, we're all better now, right? And so in the energy world, symbolism, like the desert, right? That's a really intense one. So if the desert is revealing itself to me based upon your goals, the desert isn't necessarily a place where things grow. Not in the human world, not in the energy world. The desert just things don't grow there except special, unique things. So let's say the desert, as it relates to you, might say, "Wow, you're a one of a kind plant. You're a type of plant that can grow in really harsh environments and still survive." That says a lot about you. Because if you're a cactus, you're having to be a certain type of plant that survives with very little water and has to, endure and then thrive somehow in a desert. But the desert could be symbolic of, let's say you're financially struggling and you're wanting to look at, well, what's causing this? And I wind up in a desert. It's like, well, you're in a desert right now, so I'll have to really navigate and dive deep into those energies to understand what this desert means to your request, your goals, what this means to you and your life lessons, what you're learning, how you're growing, like the cactus in this desert with these predicaments. It's like the story of Jesus too. So Jesus here is in the desert, and Jesus is tested. So what is Jesus going to become? Either be broken or become Jesus, right? And so when we're tested in these like desert times of our lives, we become wiser, more incredible people, or we just wither away, which isn't good about deserts either. So a desert, it's like a picture can hold 1,000 words. So if I'm looking at a desert, I'm not really going to know much more if I just look at, okay, well, it's just a desert, but it's deeper than that. Everything is so much deeper than just what it looks like at the surface. It's so much deeper. Just like you, just like me, we're all deeper than what we are at the surface. And so symbolism is a big part of how I interpret information because it reminds me of something. So sometimes, it reminds me of like a pretty disturbing cave. And so something is hidden in the dark, or you're going to have to go into the dark side of yourself to navigate this. But here I am. I'm going to bring the light. We'll navigate this together. So caves can be like dark places inside yourself. Caves can also represent, there's other lifetimes you can live actually in caves. And you can have a peaceful life in a cave, believe it or not. But caves can also be, wow, I've been living in a cave for so long and now I'm finally seeing the light. And it takes time now to acclimate to the very light that is, the light at the end of your tunnel. So you might be blinded by who you're working on becoming. So you can see how symbolisms and wisdom, they all kind of go together because it's like the picture that holds 1,000 words. And when I teach people how to enter into the journey state, because I do that too, I don't just do it for you, but I also teach you how to do it for yourself. But when you enter the journey state, it's very common that, you're going to sit in stillness and you have to work on just, you don't need to be thinking about a dang thing right now. You just have to work on it. Don't even have to try. Like you don't even have to try anything. That's one of the first steps is learning how to stop trying here. You just literally, you're just chilling, okay? Like don't even try to chill, just chill, okay? And so when you chill in, then you allow information to literally come to. So it's just activating the creative mind. The creative mind is what? It's an infinite universe of creative truths. And so the finite mind, like the ego and the logic and all that, helps to build the solid structures, like my laptop and this conversation, right? We're having an exchange that, we set up a time. Here's the Zoom link and stuff. So that's logical mind stuff. But the creative mind created then Zoom or created the laptop, but we had to work hand in hand with the grounded human world recipes with the logical mind, but we also need the creative mind. And our world is kind of wants it to be practical, logical, because too much creativity could be cringe. Well, it's not cringe, it's like it's actually your birthright, it's your soul, okay? So when you chill and you close your eyes, and now the creativity comes to you. Next thing you know, you're gonna be looking at something weird like a rubber ducky, and you're like, okay, what? Like, what am I supposed to do with this? Everything is deeper than what's at the surface, okay? So you gotta
Hmm.
chill some more and allow the image and the experience of that image because it's not necessarily always visible. You just know this is getting weird because the thing that keeps coming to you is rubber ducky or something. It's gonna be strange like that. And so you're getting used to accepting what is revealing itself and knowing there's deeper truths to it. And that rubber ducky could be symbolic of you need to go relax in the bathtub or you need to get connected with your inner child. The color yellow is a really powerful color for you right now. It's just maybe you're about to have a baby. It could be a lot of different meanings to that, but you can only really tell when you become still, when you slow down and you just get to know the essence of what is presenting itself. So it could be a rubber ducky, it could be a car, it could be a forest, it could be anything. But it's for you now to have some fun in the space and interacting and discovering, not because you're thinking it, but because it's revealing awareness. It's like the awareness comes up, it comes up into you. It's awareness that comes into you, and you're like, wow, I'm like getting this hunch about this rubber ducky, and I don't want to admit it, but this is what it's reminding me of. And you're like, this is so weird. But it's not. It's just you building a relationship with your creative mind. That's the ego that says you're a weirdo for trying this, you're stupid. That's ego. It's like, shut up, ego. Like, go take a chill pill with me and hang out with this rubber ducky.
Mhm.
That's what that's all about. So, I don't know,
Yeah.
those are just some thoughts.
Okay, so that brought up some good things with me. So, one of the things I'm hearing you say, and in this other kind of more formal, like trauma therapy work that I've been doing, is this whole idea of getting out of your brain and getting into your body. So what I'm hearing you say in your way is that we need to get out of our brain and we need to do kind of a bottom up approach and we need to feel what we're feeling in our bodies. And that's kind of how we're going to process our emotions because everything is energy, as we stated before. Well, emotions are energy. Emotions are energy in motion, and that's our body's way of telling us what we need to do, of keeping us safe. So by really being able to get out of just your brain and kind of start using, the lower half. I know in our session that you had done for me, you spoke about my heart space a lot. So it's like, taking the time to kind of shut the mind down, relax, take some breaths maybe, and then just feel into my heart and like, feel what emanates from this part of me. And sometimes it's not just your heart. Sometimes it's, this is weird. I feel like a big black glob in my throat and like really sitting. And it's like, okay, what does that mean? Like, what's coming up for me? And lots of times that's where like things are stored for us. So I've had to do a lot of work on my throat specifically. And like, yeah, there's been so many times where it's like, oh, there's this like huge, dense, black like blob, and now that I'm putting my attention on it, it's like growing, and it's like slightly alarming in a second because it's what it's doing is affecting my ability to talk. And it's like I cannot talk because this thing is taking over my throat. And it's like, okay, I love how you say, like, there's a lot of things that seem scary, but it's like you need to, start with having that knowledge that that fear, is an emotion, but also that we can overcome everything. Like it's just a it's reality, but it's just our reality, right? And we can change our own reality just by the way we perceive it. So I've done a lot of work with like sitting with this like gross feeling in my throat, and then like after a while, it kind of like, in another modality that I use, we can ask this thing questions. It's like, why are you here? Like, what's your purpose? And it's like, oh, well, people don't care what you have to say. And that was another big core belief for me is like people don't care what I have to say. So when it comes to like, oh, I want to do a podcast, it's like, sometimes there's that tingle. Like I've done a lot of work on it and it's, I can sit and increase my capacity to be with this core belief and everything and kind of like observe it a different way. And it's like, no, that's just a belief that I have, it's a truth that my body kind of developed through my childhood and through my life experiences that were maybe negative when, people cut me off when I was talking or
Yeah.
people, just didn't want to hear what I had to say at that time. But that doesn't mean that's forever. And that's, my whole life. So it's like using that symbolism and that sense to kind of work through and process that core belief that I had. So, and another thing I remember in our session too, you had told me like, I was in a spot and there was a spotlight, and you're kind of like talking about the light being my mother, and that, like, um, when she had to go young and stuff, it's like, yeah, she taught me what she taught me until that point, and it was exactly how it had to be. So it's like I learned what I learned, and now, like, years and years later, but still, the work that I've done on myself, like, everything happens for a reason, I believe, to this point where now I'm able to start this business, start this podcast, and hopefully other people can hear from what we're saying, and they can be like, oh, I totally relate to that. Oh, like I relate to these kind of symbols and stuff, and I want to work with them, and I want to reach out to these people to help me work with them. So that's pretty cool. And another thing when you taught me about just trusting the weird and and the rubber duckies and whatever kind of stuff comes up, and just not trying to think it away, to just sit and feel with it. It's like later on, another type of healing modality I did was hypnotherapy. And it was like, yeah, we did some weird things, and some weird stuff came up, but instead of just like shutting it down or like ignoring it, I talked about it, and I learned so much from just embracing you know whatever comes up, and just being open to everything, and just increasing that curiosity. So I'm just wondering, like, for you, I'm sure you, like you said, you get so many different types of people that come in. So just for people listening, like, what kind of advice could you give them for ways to kind of reach out and kickstart their own healing?
Okay, well, just listening to you talk about trauma and things that's happened in your life that it comes up, right? This can be years later and it's still coming up, and you really feel like you've grown and moved on from that. And it's really reminding me about my own journey because stuff still comes up for me. You know, I'm an energy healer. Why can't you just make the stuff go away? It's like, well, I'm a human. It's my
Yeah.
life journey to have stuff come up, you know, because I can't really grow if I'm like better than having stuff come up. And so one thing that I do because I having like a self-awareness super important, like an observer self, you know, just to check. Like let's say you're kind of edgy and you're not really someone prone to anger, and you just stop and it's like, what is this? What is this me right now? And it's okay to be a little judgmental, to say that doesn't seem to fit. And then you can sit down and you can start to build a healthier relationship with yourself, because oftentimes what's triggering you to be angry or to be sad or to not want to get out of bed today, what's triggering you is just the weight of just the human life and the inability to really know how to navigate all this stuff. But you do have the ability to navigate this stuff. We all have it, just again, that meditation. But I want to really share this very simple technique that I even use, because even in the last like 2 weeks, I've had some weird stuff coming up that was even affecting my throat chakra to feel really full. And I relate to also feeling like nobody wants to hear what I have to say is like a huge theme. But I know that what I have to say is what I need to say. So I just say, you know what, I got to say it. But then I'm always like at this tug of war, like, yeah, there you go, saying stuff again. You freaking screwed it up. You know, it's like, hey, stop it. I'm still the one talking. I'm stronger than you, you know? So yeah, I battle myself all the time. But I had stuff coming up, and I like to remind people to do this because we have a photo album inside ourselves full of memories we remember and memories we don't remember. And I just sat down because I was kind of edgy and it's not really my style. Like it just felt short-tempered. Like, what's going on with me? Obviously, there's some emotional stuff I'm not dealing with. And so I sat down, and it was really hard for me to be still enough to do this because it felt time consuming. It felt tedious. It was like my own rejection of the very things that I needed to look at. And, you know, as we're getting closer to the holiday season, holidays can bring up memories, you know? And I had memories coming up from different, you know, holiday seasons that were really good, but they were also like really unresolved, like really left a not like a bad taste in your mouth, but it's like a sour taste in your soul kind of thing. Like some of the reasons why you would just never want to celebrate a holiday because it just like really bad memories. And so I was sitting, I just started bawling my eyes out because inside my vision here, as I'm just sitting with this feeling, I'm just allowing random pictures to come up. That's like it's as simple as sit down and just let random pictures come up. There was Santa Claus and the reindeer were coming out of my heart, and it was like this perfect world, you know, the perfect snow and the beautiful stars and this beautiful image of what Santa means, and you know, and every kid's like dream come true to get gifts, and it's the holidays and the family's there and it's fun. And I just started like the photo album. Do you remember this when this happened? And I just like it was so jarring, you know, because I just felt it so loud and I hadn't thought about it in so long. And it was like, oh wow, yeah, I do remember when this happened. Why do we have to do this right now? You know, like why do I have to feel about this crap right now, you know? And
Yeah.
so even my aggression, like, why are you so edgy? Okay, we need to sit down and deal with this. I don't want to deal with this. Okay, well, obviously, you know, and now you're bawling your eyes out over Christmas and you forgot about. And it's like, okay, obviously I needed to get this stuff out of my system because it's not that you're like controlled by your predicaments, you are in control. But you don't have to control everything either, but you got to just kind of have some flexibility, like a teeter-totter, and say, you know what, I know who I am. Like, I know I'm a responsible, mature adult. Like, I want to bring the best of my ability, and I don't have to judge what that is as long as I'm sincere in my heart. And all the other stuff is just noise. And sometimes the noise has to come in, it has to come uproot, and you have to kind of look at the weeds in the garden kind of thing of yourself and be okay with what you're looking at and take the time to look at it. Because as you take the time to look at it, you're getting to know yourself, you're getting to know your inner child, you're getting to know the meanings of things. You're bawling your eyes out, not very fun, but you know what? You're going to feel a lot better. And you're going to notice that this isn't that hard and this is actually pretty easy and it gives you stability like crazy, which everybody wants. And so it's even for me, an energy healer, I have stuff I have to deal with. Even like stuff is going to happen today and tomorrow, not just the stuff that has happened that's molded and shaped me to an awesome person, right? Because I aspire to be a good person, okay? So I need to
Yeah.
give myself credit for that, right? So all these things in my desert, in my cactus world that helped me become me because I wasn't going to just wither away and die, not in my depression, in my suicidal states. Like I knew I wanted to live. I wanted something better. And I just had to keep believing. I had to keep working on myself and I had to keep going. And even still, I got stuff to deal with. But I have methods, you know? And obviously, I'm here to help anybody too. So, booking a session with me, I'm outside the box. You know, I color outside the lines because there are no lines, you know? And so I'm here to help you get perspective on whatever you have going on there. This is for empowerment. This is for love. This is just to have someone to tell your story to who's actually going to listen. You know, because there's a lot of people, you as a spiritual person, I know there's a lot of stuff you can go through that nobody is going to be like, cuckoo, you know. Nobody's going to relate, but I'm going to relate because I've been through so many weird things and I know what you're talking about. I guarantee it. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So in that sense, so what you're saying is like there are times where we can look within and then we can sit with what comes up and we can, process on our own. But at the same time, like, and that's, like even for me, I feel like I've gone through a lot first. I needed someone to hold my hand through it, at the beginning. It's like eventually we are able to sit with ourselves and do it. But at the beginning, like it definitely need to reach out and have help. Like there are ways that we can work a little bit on our own, but to get the ball rolling, I really feel like, yeah, we definitely need help. So through this podcast, like that's part of one of my main goals is just to showcase that there's so many different people and different ways out there that, you just gotta keep looking at what you resonate with, what sparks you, and you're like, oh, that sounds cool. So for me, it was like listening to all of these videos, and it's like, wow, like it's saying like, that you've listened to a lot, you've been through a lot yourself, and you speak to that. So at the same time, it's like you're being vulnerable with every video that you make, and that vulnerability is what, I connected to. Like, feel like I already know something about you before I even contact to work with you. And I find that's huge. And so like doing your research on people before you take that step. And another thing too, like yes, they cost money, but you know what? You're investing in yourself, and that's like the most important thing out there, right? It's an investment on yourself, on your well-being, on your own health and wellness. So that's huge. I know you were talking before about you mentioned ego. So I'm wondering if you can just kind of touch on what ego is and kind of how it rea interacts with us.
Yeah, ego is such a peculiar thing. It's a big thing. It's basically it's how our mind works to keep us in survival mode. And survival mode is comfort, right? So let's say you're wanting to conquer yourself. You're gonna have to conquer your own ego. Because the part of you that doesn't want you to get out of the comfort zone is you're going to be up against that person. And ego is, it's like you want to start a diet or you want to start exercising, you want to start meditating and doing yoga. It's like, what are you up against? You're up against yourself. That's just one sampler right there of what ego has to offer is a real freaking challenge, you know? And so you got to be aware of that. But ego for someone like me, I know that like okay, so this is a so ego has a spectrum, right? So ego could be quite superficial. We're pretty typical, like we're pretty familiar that ego could be like, oh, look at me and my shiny new car, and look at me, so ego can be so insecure that it has to surround itself with all these material things in order for you to see that there's worth and value here in this person. So that is ego, then is the insecurity or the survival technique for that person is to surround themselves with material things. And they're probably kind of empty on the inside because they don't realize the real material of what they have to offer is who they actually are, right? And so the ego on the other spectrum is going to be like what I struggle with. Like I'm worthless and nobody cares about me. Just dig a hole, crawl in it and die. That's like the depressed, suicidal mindset there. That's like where I will withdraw from society, which I have a very hermit-like nature. So it's pretty incredible even that I'm this conversational. I could put myself out there on YouTube because I'm constantly like, yeah, no, no, you don't, ego. I know I gotta speak, whether anybody hears me or not. I have to say this stuff. I know I have to say this stuff. So that's what my heart tells me. I'm just gonna do that thing. But I'm always just like, oh yeah, you just did that thing. You embarrassing, So I have to deal with this. But that's ego stuff, right? Because if I keep myself in this place where I have no self-worth, then I don't. I have no worth. Well, I do have worth. Ego. So I'm trying to get myself to some kind of healthy center here between, well, I don't need the material things to prove that I have worth and value. And I would rather just like put myself down completely. So then I just wither away because that's probably my divine truth. No, I got to find something in the center here that says, I'm worth it. And look at all I've done in my life. Look at what I've accomplished. I'm worth it. Look at me go. I'm worth it. So that's healthy ego because you got to compliment yourself. That's not like, oh, I'm worth it, because I said so. It's like, no, I'm worth it because I literally worked my butt off to be worth it, And if nobody knows that but me, I can still claim it because it's the truth. You see the material, the actual material wealth there that isn't actually made out of any material except the energy that I have to share, the energy that I'm made out of, the stories, the memories, the learning, the voice. I built this, I built this me with my entire life. And so that's healthy ego right there.
Okay, great. So the way I'm hearing that is like ego is kind of our core beliefs. And when ego is unhealthy, it's kind of like we're stuck in our brain and it's
Yeah.
like kind of our limitations and everything that's stopping us from maybe feeling into what our heart really wants. But at the same time there is healthy ego, whereas, you can feel the worth, the yeah, your own worth and everything. So again, it's kind of like this disconnect between mind and body, and really it's like our systems as a whole, we have, it's a mind body connection. Everything is really connected just within ourselves and within the whole. So one more thing that kind of comes to mind now is like when we speak of our own difficulties and our own traumas, it's like because we're all connected, there's also that kind of layer of like ancestral trauma, ancestral difficulties, generational. Can you talk to that at all about just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, all right. So we're born, so we're gifted a kind of a blueprint, right? To what our style is going to be, what our weaknesses or our strengths are going to be. Our parents carry blueprints too, where we're going to have a mix of the mom blueprint and the dad blueprint. So there's male and female energy in each and every one of us. And so we're working through these blueprints of everything that made my mom or everything that made my dad and even brought them together then to create me. That's really special, right? And so I'm carrying the gift of the survival of my entire family tree. I am a survivor of my family tree. That's really special, right? And so it all depends on how you're going to fit into certain, I guess, behavioral patterns that you were inclined to have, and your parents also have them. And so it's that self-awareness that, am I going to follow in their footsteps, or am I going to find my own footsteps? And so one thing that my parents really taught me, which didn't really wind up being, I don't think I've got it genetically, but my parents are very clean, they're very organized, and they're very hardworking. Well, I'm also hardworking, but I get so immersed in all the projects and things I want to do. So I have to be on top of the organization, the cleaning, in order to do all the projects, in order to maintain a sensible lifestyle. And so there's really good things that are going to come from those relationships that I might actually not carry, that now I'm inspired to carry. But there's always going to be conflicts too, because my mom and religion is so special to her, and that's her pathway. She speaks from the heart on that pathway. That's a Catholic upbringing that she had. My dad's very scientific, not religious at all. Had told me stories about past lives and things, so I come from some unique pathways here, and I'm scientific, yes. I'm also Christian, like Catholic, yes, but I'm also me. And so I've got to be the best of me, and then let my parents love me for who I am, right? And so there's going to be different challenges that are really going to affect us, like my parents are hardworking people, and they had expectations of me, high expectations of me, and so I was very independent, and I wanted to be independent for them so they could do their things, I could get my things done. But I also felt that that also created disconnect too. And so there could be some things in the family here when it comes to hardworking or organization and cleanliness, and connection, based on like how we navigate life, and then how do we come together and share openly, honestly, this is who I am, that's who and come together and bring it together. So it's really, people are going to have really extreme experiences that are going to be passed down, like child abuse. I don't relate to having, I wasn't physically abused or anything like that. So that's not my story, right? But that's going to be other people's story. And it's not just they're the child of abuse. Now their parents were the child of abuse, and then their parents were the child of abuse. So then how do you break the cycle? Well, you have to find out who you are. You're not the child of abuse. You find out who you are. Even if you were abused, you say, "Oh, I'm definitely I definitely was abused." It's like, okay, then that's your identity. You're abused. Or is your identity, you know what? I had some incredible experiences that were insanely hard, broke me and shattered me in a million pieces. I got into drugs and alcohol, and now here I am, and I'm laid flat like a dirty old mat. And I don't even know how to stand. I don't even know how to get up. And my parents did this to me, and their parents did this to them. Okay, eventually you're going to have to step back and say, I'm so grateful for this trauma that I am actually kind of the laundromat here of all this crap. But I'm going to stand up, and I'm going to find out who I am, not as an abused person, but as a healthy, strong, capable person. That's one of the hardest things you can do, is realize that the attachment will hold you in that place forever. But you got to disconnect from your attachments to what didn't work, and what was wrong, and what was unjust, and what made you do the things that you did. No, you made those choices because that was your lesson. To either fall in line and keep following through with that path, or to stand up and say, I'm different. I'm different than all these people. I'm different. I'm doing it differently. Some of the coolest stories come from people who, they came from rock bottom, worst households ever, and they found something incredible inside themselves, and they beat it all. Like, they beat the system. They beat it. And that doesn't make them like, they're proud, they're strong, they have a good voice, they have something worth saying, but that doesn't mean they don't carry the weight of all that garbage that's still coming back up, and now they're bawling their eyes out for some reason, and they're having to still deal with it, even though they're feeling like a lot stronger than they've ever felt, and they're now a leader, and they're a strong speaker. But they're still hurting inside, because that stuff just straight up hurts, but it doesn't have to mean that you aren't who you are. And discover who you are, not based upon that connection that you have to just stay plugged into. You can just disconnect and say, that's who you are, mom and dad, or grandma, grandpa. That's who you are. But that's not who I am. You can do that to me, but I know who I am, and I'm not a product. This is not intoxicating my veins. This is not coming in, and this is not my compass. I know who I am, you know? And so that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is like that basically change is possible. You know,
Yeah.
we're not stuck to who we think we need to be because of our families, because of our ancestors, because of where we grew up. That, you know, everybody has this potential to change, and it's just it's not easy, and you gotta find it within yourself, and you gotta find your own motivations, and you need to find the help that'll get you there. But change is possible, you know.
Change is possible. I will say the hardest thing about change is how bad it hurts to
Hmm.
actually stand up and actually start speaking differently. Like me having to start speaking differently because I was like very immersed in a suicidally depressed state, very immersed. And I was in that state, like negative self-talk and everything. And I was visualizing it and I was really in a dark place for many years. Like I was in a suicidally depressed state for 25 years of my life. It's pretty hardcore. Like it's pretty impossible to believe that anybody would have endured such a thing. I can't even believe it even now when I look back, but I have times where I get immersed in that again. It's like, geez, how did I live like that? But one thing that changed it for me, which is the one thing I didn't want to say, because I used to say I want to die all the time, and I started to say I wanted to live. And so once I started to say I want to live, which is the last thing I wanted to say, because the truth was I didn't want to live. Well, I had to change the truth, right? And so when you start changing the truth, which is the one thing you don't want to do because it hurts so bad and the injustice is real and then the reality of where you fell and what you landed into and what you became and how disgusting it all is, that it molds and shapes us into these people that have been abused or suicidally depressed or drug abuse and all that. You don't, it's like your truth, your pain is so real that you want to hold on to it and be that dirty dish rag because that's what happened to you. That's what you became. It's like the things have to change out there, not in here. They have to change out there for me to change. No, you have to change in here. And when you change in here, you change what's out there. And when you figure that out, which is kind of a disgusting, difficult moment, but once you realize it, now you're getting through the revolving door and now you're taking ownership of a totally new life path just because you simply made a new statement. It's because you claimed it differently. Because the truth also existed that I always did want to live, and that's why I still was alive, you know? And so I have to
Hmm.
honor that truth too. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. That is
Yeah.
extremely vulnerable. And basically it kind of like ignited one thing. I don't know, remember who said it, but it's always stuck with me. It's like when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, you know? So it's like that perspective, like, yeah, when you
Yeah.
change your own perspective, what you're seeing changes before your very eyes, basically. Do you mind sharing kind of what led you to change that narrative for yourself? Like, what was the spark that got you on that path?
A very good question. I just remember that one of the ways that I would cope with it is I would just sit in the shower. And so in the shower, just I would sit there for as long as the hot water would last. And I was kind of like in a living slash dead state. My entire body it's just hard to face each and every day, even though you still had to. So even I was doing sessions for people, and I was still suicidally depressed, you know? And I just remember being in the shower and I know what it was now. I remember I was like hurting so bad. Like when I hurt so bad, it's almost like I become a splintered part of the universe and I feel this splinter like a windshield. I got hit with a rock, but then the spider web just expands and I became this like expanded broken windshield and it hurts in every single direction so bad. And I was just sitting there feeling all this pain and like feeling this like pain as I was connected to the planet and it was hurting me and I was hurting and then something just came and stopped me like from feeling that. Like I guess I was, you know, choosing to feel it. It was me choosing to feel it. And this energy just came and it's almost like made it so I couldn't do the behavior. And I couldn't even override whatever that energy was. And I remember that came like a couple of times and it made me angry. It's like, how dare you get in the way of me feeling like the broken windshield that I am? Like, how dare you decide what I get to feel in my life? Like, how dare you? And it happened enough times that it started to get me to say, okay, maybe this is some kind of intervention here. Maybe this is like a divine thing. Like, I wasn't going to be thankful for that. No, I wanted
Hmm.
my pain, because that's what you want when you're in these states. You want your pain, and your pain is real. And when that's not allowed, it's like a annoying intervention. But it was from there that I had a bit of an epiphany, which epiphanies are like a godsend. They're like an angelic, you're capable of receiving it. You can get an epiphany at any time, but are you capable of receiving it? You could even pray for an epiphany. It's just you've got to be at the divine time for it. And it just came to me that you say it all the time. I want to die. I want to die. You say it all the time. You visualize yourself dying. Like this is why I question. I could manifest my own death. Come on now. I worked hard to do that. No, I could manifest my own death, and I visualized it. I lived in it. I died many, 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 many times. I could never attract it. That tells me that I have a purpose. I am meant to be here. I have a purpose. And so no amount of visualizing it is going to make it happen. And it was like this epiphany that's kind of interconnected with all of this has said, you know, we say this all the time, like, I want to die, but we never say, I want to live. We never, ever, ever, ever say this. And and then you sit with this weird moment where it's like, you're right. I never do say this because I talk to myself. And like, you're right. I guess I never do say that. And I was like, fine, I'll say it. Fine, I'll say it. And I said I wanted to live, and it was the weirdest feeling. It was the weirdest feeling because it was the first time I'd ever said in all those years. And that was probably 20 years in. And then those last 5 years was me working my way out because I had developed a lot of difficult like echoes. Like I could be walking in a grocery store and all of a sudden it's like I'm getting cut up with knives. Like I didn't make that up. I didn't decide it was going to be there. It's just like the echo from where the nucleus is, like I'm the healed part of myself walking away from who I once was, but that sound still can kind of come into myself in the future, which is my present day self, which a lot of that is so neutralized. It proves that if you don't give up and you stay focused, you stay consistent, what you actually want, what you want to conquer, and who you really want to be, and you stay focused on that, you will truly turn your back on it as though that past never even existed. It's as strange to me now as like even talking about. It's like, yeah, it's like I definitely that was not even just like yeah, I definitely struggled with suicidal depression. I lived as a suicidally depressed person from morning till night. And I pretended like I was fine, like Robin Williams. When I found out that Robin Williams ended his life as like the happiest man, the most loving, like this guy who wanted to make the world a place full of smiling, happy people, killed himself. It's like that there's people like Robin Williams out there you would never know that are that in such a dark place inside themselves. And he's a messenger, he's a messenger that there's people that will want to make you smile and care about you, but you have no idea what they struggle with inside themselves. And I really related to him, and it made me so sad to see that he was gone from our world. And I saw myself as someone doing the same thing, like wearing a mask, but not really, because how do you just be like walk around sad all day so people can know you're like what you really are like? That's not who I wanted to be. I wanted to be happy. I want to make people happy. But I had to deal with me too, like the real me inside that I would never show anybody. And so that's some of the steps in the process that I had to take. I'm convinced too that our ailments, like our darknesses that we carry, our dark stories, are so important to the type of caliber person that we're going to become in this life if we can conquer it, you know? And
Hmm.
having navigated that depression, it took me into really dark places. It taught me a lot about just loving people just as they are, you know, because I really just wanted someone to just see and accept me in a way I could not. I would chew myself and spit myself out, you know. I was not nice to myself. And so I just yeah, that's kind of yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm sure that so many people can relate, on that. And what comes to my mind is just like this whole having empathy for other people and not judging a book by its cover, because like you said, you really don't know. Like lots of people, yeah, they'll cut you off and they'll yell at you, and so it's like, okay, I can see what's going on for them, a little bit. But there's so many people that, yeah, and I find it's especially women, but I'm sure it's men as well, that kind of put on this face because they have to they strive to take care of other people, and then they just kind of repress what's inside for themselves.
Right.
So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Another thing that they brought on to me was like in my whole life, like it made me think of angels, and like I know you speak a lot about angels, and it's like in my life, like there's so many instances where like I could have been seriously harmed. And it's like, I believe that I have a guardian angel. And is it my mom, or is it some spirit, associated with that, or an ancestor or an angel? And it's like, yeah, it's like there's been so many times in my life that it's like I say I'm lucky, but at the same time, I have like a knowing that there is somebody else out there for me and like and trying to protect me in that sense. So. Yeah, do you feel like maybe that was like an angel kind of intervention, sort of, in your case?
Definitely. I mean, I feel like angels come in all shapes and sizes. Like even we are angels to each other, or we're demons to each other, right? So there's angels are basically the channeling of that embodiment of what is the divine rescuer, the divine almost like a part of God, an extension from God's own divine light in the form of a true balanced representation of a type of love that only, you know, Archangel Michael or Archangel Raphael or Jophiel or it could should share, you know, and that you could tap into that and that could come and intervene or that could come and say something to you. But I also find that there's so many incredible and unexpected and strange beings in the universe, you know, and we can call them alien beings or, you know, it really, when you start to just disconnect from the human self and you start to listen to what all's out there, it's like, you know, what dimension are they an incarnate being? Are they a consciousness? Like where they come from? What's their story? But you're gonna come across like it all, like it's all there from everywhere, and so you'll meet the most peculiar beings. I can't say like it's interesting to bring this up, and I'm thinking about it now. But I don't know. I never looked. I never actually stopped to look or get to know what the force was that stopped me at that time. So it was an angelic event. Obviously, like it, that intervention is of the frequency of what we define as angels, but it very well could have been a movement of alien beings, you know? It could have been anything, but it was definitely an essential thing. And it's almost sometimes I wonder, like, is there a destiny of sorts? Like maybe there was a time that my soul had to face this, like it was the perfect ingredients for me to have to face this conundrum purposefully. My soul
Hmm.
needed this conundrum in order for me to learn what I need to learn so I can be this person today, right? But at
Hmm.
any time in there, I could have ended my life at any time in there. But there would be a moment, a divine, a destiny moment where that could not continue, period. Like it's almost like my assignment was to be depressed. My assignment was to be suicidally depressed and to fall into it and maybe even do something to end my own life. Like my assignment. When I never attempted to take my own life. I never did because I never wanted to. I never wanted to take my own life. I just was suicidally depressed, thinking about dying all the time. And so once that event happened, I feel like maybe I crossed a line of divine time where it's like, okay, all right, you did it. You didn't you survived that. And now we're going to shift gears and now the next thing. And so you kind of like have these phases where you're gonna have these lessons and then you're gonna phase out of those lessons into other lessons. It's not like you just, I'm done with the lessons. No, you're gonna always have something to work on, and that's gonna make you more beautiful. The quicker you can get at and embracing this stuff, the faster the easier life is going to be. Embrace, 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 embrace. And don't ever just like, oh God, no. Get that away from me. It's like, okay, so that's where you're coming from. Okay, and now we're having an exchange. Okay, and this is me and that's you. And so it's like, okay, what can I do to make the best of this moment and the best of that moment? Really crappy moments are going to happen. What's the best I can do in this crappy moment? What's the best that I can do? And if that's the best I can do, then there's nothing, there's nothing that I can feel down about that. So was it an angel? I feel like the presence, the influence was definitely angelic, and the influence was definitely divine time because it was time for me to phase out so I could have a different relationship with myself and my life. And because in some way, I guess maybe some part of me was ready for that, or it just was destiny, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've kind of heard the talk of it before and like listened to other people's stories and stuff where yeah, this thought of divine timing, this thought of like, we kind of plan out what our soul's gonna learn while we're on Earth, and then some of us do keep evolving and some of us get there and some of us, won't, and not in this lifetime, and then maybe they'll try again in the next lifetime or however you believe that works, right? And
Right?
it's just kind of like, yeah, again, you need to make that choice for yourself. It's so easy. Like, I know in my healing journey, it's so easy for me to like disengage sometimes and my body puts up these protective walls, and it's like, if I go into a certain spot and then I feel this intense grief, if I go in too hard, it'll be like I'll feel it for a moment and then it's completely gone. It hasn't been processed. My body is so good at dissociating, and I find lots of times too, like even if I'm in a session with someone and we're working on to this one thing, and then it's like my mind wants to describe it or something as its way to like to let it go, and it's like our bodies and our minds are actually so amazing at how they can keep us stuck in one sense, right?
Yeah.
And then also how they can heal when we allow it. So yeah, I think that's been a pretty amazing conversation so far.
It
Thank you so
has.
much. And yeah,
Thank
when
you.
you're going on talking about like these other beings and stuff that you've channeled and stuff, so it's like anybody listening, like go find Abbey Normal's channel. I'll put all the details there, and it's like so many cool things that you have experienced and places that you have visited, and like energetic conversations that you've had. It's so cool, and I really appreciate it, and I love it, and I love listening. And
Thank you so much.
yeah, thank you, and hopefully we can keep connecting and chat again. And thanks to all our listeners. And yeah, tune in again. I'm gonna cut the recording now. Thanks so much. Uh, bye, everybody. Much love.